Well, good afternoon. This is Lefty Olguin along with Stephen with an A. Simensky. And we're taping live here at the Linwood Community Church with another video message for you this week. It's a very special message today. But before we do that, why don't we open in prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for another day, another hot day, but you know, it's better than like being on fire. So I just thank you for that and the opportunity to be here to record a video. Thank you so much for Linwood Community Church and the impact it's having in the community. We just ask you to bless this message in your name. Amen. Okay. Well, I titled this one, My Mother's Day. I realize that in the United States, the second Sunday in May is dedicated to Mother's Day. And we celebrated Mother's Day at that time. But today is my Mother's Day. Now I say that because on June 3rd, 2007, my mother went home to be with her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So I consider that my Mother's Day. That's when my Mother's Day left to be where she really wanted to be in the first place. And so I had a lot of memories and a lot of things I want to reminisce about her. But I think I'm going to just touch on a lot of the spiritual things or the things that we were blessed with, my brothers and I. And number one was her favorite verse. And my mother, most of her life, after she accepted Christ, she was a Sunday school teacher. She had a job and she was a Sunday school teacher, and she raised 3 boys, my brother Jerry, Eddie, and myself. But Philippians 1, 21, 24 were, well, just those verses really just depicted how she felt. It says, for me to live is Christ. He is my source of joy, my reason to live, and to die is gain, for I will be with him in eternity. If, however, it is to be life here and I am to go on living, this will mean useful and productive service for me. So I do not know which to choose if I was given that choice, but I am hard pressed between the two. I have the desire to leave this world and be with Christ, for that is far, far better. Yet to remain in my body is more necessary and essential for you. When Paul wrote that, that's how Paul felt. And I read the Amplified Version. And it just, what the Amplified Version does a lot of times is just takes the original version is in it and expands on some of the words to explain it a little bit better. So that was her favorite verse. And I can honestly tell you that as I was older, as I grew older, and I want to say wiser, I'm glad I got a little bit wiser. She actually, I could see that there was times where she wanted to go home, especially in her later years when she was sick. But I often told the story that she was in the hospital in her later days, the USC Medical Center, and I would drive from Barstow after I got out of work at the college and go spend the weekend with her at the hospital, and then drive back next couple days later. With all these tubes running in and out of her, and down to 85 pounds, she's still witnessing. Still led like 7 nurses to the Lord. Her life was all about this verse, and for her to live was Christ, and to die was, man, she knew where she was going. She didn't worry about it. She just let it happen. And like a lot of people that I know, it's not that they give up, it's they stop doing what they're meant to do in their life and just say, well, I'm retired, road's over, I'm done. But she didn't stop. It was until she took her last breath that she would proclaim her salvation. So I thought that was pretty awesome as a son. I want to read just a little summary. I want you to, when you have a chance, For those of you who have a Bible, if you don't have a Bible, just look it up on your iPhone or Android or whatever kind of phone you have, or your computer. And it's Acts 12, 1 through 17. And we go through this 17 verses. That's when Peter's locked up, he's thrown in jail. He's going to be executed, James was actually just executed right before that. So the apostles were like public enemy number 1 through 12. And so the story people always talk about is how Peter's in prison. All of a sudden, miraculously the chains fall off, it opens, there's an angel that's sent there, and he escapes. That's beautiful. But the real story that I want to talk about today is Mary, the mother of Mark, not the mother of Jesus. Mary was a common name in the times of Jesus, and this Mary is sometimes skipped over when we talk about the Marys in the life of the early church. But we cannot neglect the power of leading through hospitality. Peter had been arrested. Church needed a place to gather for prayer, and Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, allowed people into her home and let them bring their fears and hopes with them. They prayed. God sent an angel who led Peter out of prison, and the church continued to grow. Many aren't called to lead through teaching, but anyone can lead others through hospitality. And I picked that out. And the lesson that you learn is that, don't doubt the power of hospitality and opening your home. It's essential as a Christian when God says love your neighbor. Essential as you're a Christian. If you love your neighbor, you love anybody. When they say invite them into your home, you're looking out after people. They looked out after Peter. Their faith was great. Their hospitality was amazing. So I can relate a couple stories to you about my mom, and it'll tell you the kind of person she was. Everybody wants to brag about their mom. Maybe you don't, but I don't really brag about my mom. I let other people do that. And she taught me that at a young age. Lefty, don't go brag about yourself. Just let other people do it. And so I don't, but what I like to share is the kind of person she was to other people, and to us, of course, as her children. We were always excited. My brothers and I, Jerry was the middle one, Eddie was the youngest one, and I was the oldest one. And we got to the age where we were still, goofy and not knowing what we were doing, but we wanted to make our mom, always wanted to make our mom the Mother's Day breakfast. So I think I might have been 9 or 10, and Jerry was like 8, and Eddie was 6. And so we made this awesome breakfast. I don't know if it was edible, to be honest. When I look back, the kids, we could eat anything. We used to eat dirt, so we could eat anything. But I'm sure we burnt the eggs, man. I'm sure we absolutely just cooked all the juice out of the sausage and the bacon, and the toast obviously was burnt. My mother used to always say, "No, I like burnt toast. I like burnt tortillas. It's good. Charcoal's good for you," which I hate. I hate it, but I look back and I go, man, she must have loved us, because she bragged about, "Oh, my sons made me breakfast," and that was a tradition that we carry, at least my family, on with my daughter and my wife. And my daughter will make Mother's Day breakfast and Father's Day lunch every year. And it was traditional, because for us, when we were kids, that was the most important thing we could do. Now, yeah, we'd go out and we'd collect bottles. I lived in San Pedro. Halfway down the alley, I could go out of my alley and you could see McCown's Market. So I was like 3 blocks. So I would go around the neighborhoods and collect bottles. And I'd go cash the bottles in. We'd just save some money so we could buy our mom a Mother's Day present. maybe an ice cream or some Rolos at the same time. But that's what we did. We didn't have a job. We were just kids. We did. And we collected enough money to go buy a present. With a present, it was, I can remember one time we bought her some cologne. And you know what? I have no idea, but I don't think the cologne was very good. It was like 45 cents or something like that. And we bought like little tiny gifts, so we wanted to have a lot of stuff there for our mom to look at. So our Mother's Day was really special to us because we wanted to give back for all the stuff she did for us. And being a single parent, after 5 years old, she raised us by herself, along with her sisters and brothers and my aunts and uncles. And so it was special. Mother's Day was special for us. And so we loved to do that. The first breakfast, I'm sure, wasn't edible, but it was meaningful, but continued on, and we got better as it went on. I got up this morning and I read some letters. And I'm writing a book right now, and my goal is to have it published by the end of the summer. So I wrote a previous book, but that was basically on sports and stuff. This one's more about Christ, more about family, it's still sports in it because it's what I did. And so in this, I have these letters I pulled out when my mom passed, went in her drawer, and she had these letters she used to write to God each day. I mean, write to him like it was her boyfriend growing up or her father or family member, communicating like he was right there next to her. And so I got up and I started reading these letters again, and I couldn't get past like the first two letters, man. I said, I can't read that online. Man, I'll start bawling like a baby, man. I can't do that. And so I said, I'm just going to tell a couple stories. And instead of reading the letters, but you'll get to read those letters if you read the book when it comes out. Talk about sports. We were all in sports. We all played football in high school, and my two brothers were track guys. They shot putted, and I was the baseball guy. And so my mom never missed my games, and she worked. She worked for my uncle at the grocery store, and every time I was playing a game, she got the day off or the time to run, watch me play, then go back to work. She didn't miss my games. She loved watching all her kids play. And I think the one thing that stands out the most was that as much as we love sports and she loved to watch us play, it didn't come in front of church. I mean, we had to go to church. We played on a Sunday. We're getting dressed in the car for a game on the way to the field. And she taught me that very important lesson. You don't do that, man. You got to go to church on Sunday, but you live church the whole week, but you go on Sunday. And we went on Wednesday. And whatever events we had, we went to those too. And so from an early age, we were all in church. A lot of times we might not have liked it. No, I don't want to go today. I'm not feeling good. I'm sick. If you're too sick, you can't leave. You can't go play today. Okay, I'm not that sick. So basically, it was a structure for us growing up. But you know what? You could be structured and go to church, and it means nothing. The fact was that she exhibited the Christ-like attitude in her life, in front of other people, in front of us. It wasn't a rehearsed religion. It was her relationship with Jesus Christ. New Year's was special. We had her birthday was on New Year's. So every New Year's, the entire family, and we had a big family, and we had a 911 square foot house in San Pedro, and big backyard, but man, my mom would crank out tamales. She'd like 144 tamales and rice and beans. It was just a New Year's Day feast. And she'd probably bake her own cake, and people came over and enjoyed it. Church people, family people, friends, neighborhood, whatever. So New Year's was special, not because of any parties that are going on at night, not because of any special games. We sat down and watched the Rose Bowl. And I had a couple uncles that they'd come over, they watch the game because they were betting on it. And they'd try to sneak beer into the house. My mom had a no alcohol policy, so she says, "Hey, get out, go down the block, go in the alley. Don't come in my house with that stuff." So she stuck by her guns, man, no matter what. And I appreciated that. And at one point in my life, I accidentally drank a beer and got my dog drunk at the same time. And when she came home, I think I was 18, she came home and found me and started crying. I asked her, "Why are you crying?" She goes, "I got to kick you out. You broke my rule." I had to move out. So my mom boots me out of the house for drinking a 40-ounce Bud. I don't know what I drank. But my dog passed out, so she was upset about that too. And anyways, I look back and I go, wow, man, my mom kicked me out of the house because I broke one of her rules. It was one of God's rules, not my mom. That was the important thing. And, I can remember the funniest thing. And for those of you who know my aunts and my uncles, my Aunt Martha lived on 6th Street. And I'll never forget this. This is a visual I'll never forget. There was my Aunt Trini, there was my Aunt Martha, my Aunt Stella, my Aunt Lily, and my mom. And they would be huddled up in this little part of the kitchen, just a table. I mean, they were jam-packed in it. I would come walking through into the kitchen, and there's 5 women talking as loud as you can talk without screaming, all at the same time. And I stop in amazement. I go, my God, what are they saying? How could they understand each other? Just like that. And I'm totally amazed. But you know what? They heard what each other was saying. They were very close. They called each other every morning. I go, Mom, who are you talking to today? Oh, I'm talking to your Aunt Stella. Mom, I'm talking to your Aunt Trinity. I go, how'd they doing? How's everybody doing? It was like we didn't need a news media. We had those ladies, and they took care of business. It was a sight to see when they were doing that, and so those are very memorable things for my family and how my mom's family was. But my mom in particular, I remember this. I went to a camp in the summer, Christian camp. I was a counselor, and it was Watts Week in San Diego. We went to camp in Julian, Camp Wainola, and they called it Watts Week. So they bussed all these kids from, maybe junior high through high school. They bussed them all into the forest, man. And these guys are coming from the inner city. Man, I had a great time. Met a lot of great kids. And without asking anybody, I go, hey, when we get back, it's still summertime, I want you all to come over to my house, and I'll barbecue for you. So I never told my mom. I never said anything. So I got home. I said, hey, Mom, we just got done with the Watts Week. She goes, cool. How was it? I go, well, I invited some kids over for a barbecue. She goes, oh, fine. And now you got to understand, I lived in San Pedro. We were a diverse town, but where I lived, I had Croatians on my right, Croatians on my left, Italians, Irish, everything. I think we were the only Mexicans on the block, and no blacks on the block. We lived right in the middle. We lived in between Walker and Leland. So she goes, how many? I go, I think 40. She goes, 40? How they getting here? I think they're going to bring their church bus. And so what are we going to do? I said, well, I could barbecue hot dogs and stuff like that. So without a permit, without anything, my friend Danny Trujillo and I went out and dug a pit right in the middle of my backyard, put rocks all around it for a campfire so we could have campfire. And my mom, I don't know how many tacos she made, but there was at least 30, 35 kids, and everyone got full. I think Danny ate 12 tacos. He liked my mom's cooking. But I had an uncle come and give a message, and you should have seen the looks on my neighbors' faces. And the only reason they didn't say anything or call the cops is because they knew my mom. They knew that my mom opened the door to everybody on that block. My mom opened the door to anybody that needed to be there. and it was a great time. I would never do that to my wife because it's a little bit different when you're married. But my mom, she was used to that. That was hospitality. That was what she did with her life. So that was pretty cool. So if I was going to draw you a picture of who she was, and I'm not a very good artist, if I draw a stick person, that's as far as I went as a stick person. But if I was to draw you a picture in your mind, I would draw a picture of a smiling woman opening the door for anyone who came by to visit. She would make sure they had something to drink and something to eat. She would, whether they were hungry or not, they were eating it. And she was such a good cook. I mean, they were eating it anyway. Then she would share her faith, tell stories of, the conversation always came around to God. Could start off anything, but come around to God. And she would share the gospel of salvation. Because that's what Jesus asked her to do with her life. She would make sure to pray when you were there. She'd pray for you before you left. Make sure you got home safe. Because that's what God put on her heart. Then as soon as that person left, she would close the door and yell at me, "Hey, Lefty, make up your bed." And I go, "Hey, why should I make up my bed? I'm just going to sleep in it again tonight. It doesn't make sense." So there was this ongoing thing, and I think I made up my bed. In high school, I think I made up my bed maybe once a semester. I don't know. I got out of bed. I always showered at night because I got out of bed 10 minutes before I needed to be at school. I lived 3 blocks from school, had my clothes ready to go, ran out the door, and was sliding in to homeroom so I could make it. Got my hours of sleep in, though. And you know what? Through all the things that I did growing up, her life centered around, number one was God. She always told us, she goes, "You don't have," and I saw my father. He'd come every other week on a Saturday or something, or we'd go to the beach. He was a lifeguard in the summers, and we'd get to be down there hanging around. But as far as being the parent, I mean, it was our mom. And I used to get ticked off, and I used to have a chip on my shoulder about my dad not being there and not doing fatherly things. My dad tried to tell me about the birds and the bees, and I go, "What are you doing? I'm 22 years old. Now I'm married." Okay, I guess you understand what's going on. So the parenting did not take place, by my dad. It took place by my mom. So she always told us, she goes, "You know what? You might not have had a physical father, biological father, but God's your father." And I talk to God every day. And I thought to myself, my mom says she talks to God every day. She wrote letters, man. I got them. And one day you will read them. She wrote letters, and it was like when I read those letters, God's real. Jesus is real. The prayers she asked for and were answered are real. And I wouldn't be here today telling you that if I wasn't one of those in some of those letters. Every time I went out, when I was in high school, every time I went out, she'd pray that I would come back alive. And I got a lot of stories I am not going to share because that was not the greatest spiritual time of my life. So I won't share those. But all I can tell you is my mama prayed for me every night. And it paid off. So simply it was God first. And then her children second. Jerry, Eddie, and myself. And when they talk about mama bear protecting her cub, man, I'd rather fight the mama bear, man, because my mom would, she used to throw us around and wrestle with us. So I know that she was our protection, along with our dog, Bullet. And she actually wrote a letter to God thanking him for Bullet. I read that one a little bit this morning. So our communication with God was real. And then third, other people. She would put other people before herself. When they say, you know, that guy's such a great guy, he'd give you the shirt off his back. I'm not even going to tell you the times, and we weren't rich by any means. I'm going to tell you, if I had clothes from Kmart or Montgomery Ward's, it was only because school was starting and we saved up all year for it. There's no way we had. I don't even know what a designer jean was. I thought it was just something you draw a picture on. So we didn't grow up with a lot of money, and but we never needed anything. No, we had each other. I had my cousins I could play with. I mean, even to this day, man, I go hang out with my cousin Guy. I'm a guy and myself and his wife and my wife. We were on bowling leagues together. I go play darts with them. And I mean, you know what? I didn't need anything else. And so when I grew up, I didn't grow up thinking that money was the answer. No, God was the answer. He provided everything for my mom, and she provided everything for us until we were old enough to move out of the house and get our own job and do our own thing. But that always stayed with me, that she always put other people first. And through my life, what's one thing I tried to do. And you'll never see me, if you see me in a tux, you won't probably ever see me in a tux. I was in one when I was married. I was in one at a wedding, and it's not me. You know, I had to wear a suit and a tie for a while. As an administrator at Barstow College, man, I can't do that every day. It chokes me, man. It chokes me. I'd rather be in a Hawaiian shirt, T-shirt. That's just who I am. But bottom line is, we never worried about things, and she would always take care of other people. She didn't have much money, but she took care of other people. And then fourthly, she took care of herself last. And when I say that, I don't think my mom ever bought a new car. She would buy a used, good car. We bought her a car once. We were 11. I was 11, so I was 12, so Jerry was probably 10, and he was maybe 8. But we all pitched our bottle money in, and we got her a Pinto, of all cars, to get her a Pinto. It was like $500 down, so my dad helped out, most of it helped out, put it down, and my mom had to finish paying off a Pinto. So that wasn't really the greatest card to give her, but it was a card, so that was sort of the joke. But she never bought anything new. If there was a TV, it's because we bought it. If there was this, because we bought it. I mean, her refrigerator was an antique, and she used it till it didn't work anymore. So she thought of other people first and herself last. My mom collected cards. She had boxes full of cards. She used to take the rocks that her grandkids would collect on the street and get them. She put them in a little box. She kept everything from her kids and her grandkids. That was her life, and her life was centered around God and Jesus. And on earth, her life was centered around her kids. And so the great lessons, celebrate this day today, my Mother's Day, June 3rd, 2007, as that's when she went to be with the Lord. And a lot of us, I know a lot of people that I know on Facebook and just know, period, they've lost loved ones, not just mothers, fathers, friends, cousins, husbands, wives. And the reality of it is we're all leaving this earth. We're all leaving this earth, and when we take our last breath, I think the question before that last breath comes is, hey, where am I going to be? Where am I going to be when I take that last breath? Am I going to be in a hospital bed, grabbing for the last breath of air? Am I going to be hit by a car? Am I going to, OD? Am I going to get beat up and left? Burn? I don't know. I don't know. I got no answer for that. All I know is, where are you going to wake up? Because you are going to wake up. And if you don't think there's an eternity or heaven and hell, I'm sorry for you. Send me your name, I'll pray for you. Because that is the most important decision in your life. And I lived it, I've seen it, I've lived it. I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. And like this verse says, if I'm going to be living on this earth, I'm here sharing the gospel. I haven't always been that way. When I was in sports, I was playing sports. But you know what? But through my last breath, I want to be able to share the gospel with people. I want to be able to put people first. I want to be able to put me last. And those are lessons I learned on the way from a godly mother. And so I always thank God for that. And I always thank God for all of you that are listening, because number one, if you are a Christian, you are saved, I'll see you. See you again, whether I run into you on the street or run into you in heaven, either way. And if you're not, I'm not running into you. So that's a decision you're going to have to make. And that's a gift and a choice that you make, but it's a gift that's free. And that's Jesus Christ, because he's the only way, he's the truth and the life. No man gets to the Father except through him. John 14:6. So let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, a special Mother's Day for me, and thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, down on the cross. I thank you for a role model, godly role model. And I thank you for everybody that I run into, all my friends, all my family, Lord. And I just pray that each and every one of them will seek you, seek the truth. Countries in turmoil, worlds in turmoil, that's not a secret. It's in the Bible. And Lord, I pray that you pick up a Bible and start reading it. A person reads the Bible, they can't walk away from that Bible thinking that there isn't a God. And I just pray that each and every one of my friends and the people I know understand that. Thank you again for this day. Thank you for Stephen videoing, Lord, and just bless the rest of the week for us in your name. Amen.